Your comments about scale and complexity, I think, really illustrate why service provider SDN is so much more interesting a challenge in many ways than just focusing on SDN in the data center. I mean, the problem that you're trying to solve with SDN in the data center is a much more confined and limited set of challenges. You know, in that you're really just dealing with layer 2 and layer 3 networking, whereas in service provider networks, you've got the transport layers, you've got fibers and lambdas and OTN and MPLS. Riding on top of it, and just managing the complexity of all those different layers and optimizing the establishment of paths through all those different layers. You know, the hierarchy of tunnels that you've got is a hugely complex task, and it's one that at the moment we have to tackle largely manually. I think that the big prize here is figuring out how an abstracted SDN controller can optimize through that multi-layer network. For a given set of traffic flows and service requirements, provide the best provisioning across all of those layers, and to do so completely automatically and even dynamically as traffic flows change. And that will, I think, enable network operators to get far more out of their network assets, even while those assets themselves become less expensive because they've become more commoditized.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd agree that it's easier in a data center. It's a different set of problems. Mm-hmm. It also has a different set of constraints, both physical, environmental, financial, than you have in building a wide area network. But what I look at is how we've grown the wide area network over 100 years, and the model it's followed, and then you look at a well-oiled data center operations function. And it's much more of a systems administration and operations function. It's very streamlined, can handle a huge number of customers coming in and out of the data center, if you will. Many services, very complex environment in its own right, with a small number of highly trained staff. Because of the tools and the abstractions that occur in a data center, right? A data center, very few people are worried about, how the CPU chips are actually working, or the RAM. And there's probably somebody that worries about that, but everything's abstracted up to layers through operating systems, through virtualization, VM layers, and on up through orchestration, where you can be very streamlined in how you operate to get to your quality and your reliability metrics. And I think one of the things SDN enables, it opens the door for, is to start applying that model of operations into the wide area. Mm-hmm. That's a big change.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not just a different new OSS BSS. That's saying, no, we don't even think of it as OSS BSS anymore. Think of it as a huge distributed sort of data center function. Yeah. How do you abstract up from your layers 1, 2, 3, and get to the point where you're really dealing with it with a much smaller number of experts with more complex systems that work because of the understanding of abstraction through the layers. It's a big change. So even getting the new types of equipment in and getting SDN technology deployed doesn't guarantee that change. I think that's a big challenge for the carriers, and their broader adoption of SDN will be the shift in operations model.